Hey guys, we want to thank you for joining us once again. This is going to be episode number 2 of our journey with MPS 1. If you haven't seen episode number 1, you can click the link right here. It'll take you right to it. We're going to do a quick recap on episode number 1. So in episode 1, Allie and I met. She found out I was a little bit of a partier, and then we ended up getting married. What else happened?
We joined our home church. We got saved. We had Kennedy. Everything was perfect. And at 9 months, she was diagnosed with MPS 1 Hurler Syndrome. The community rallied around us, and we thought that we were going to have a golf tournament to raise $10,000, and they wrote us a check for $35,000. We felt loved. We were surrounded by community, family that just rallied and sent us on our way to Cincinnati.
So a few things that we kind of left out in episode number 1 that we wanted to go back and touch on real quick was what is MPS 1? What is Hurler Syndrome?
Hurler Syndrome is a rare disease. Hurler Syndrome is a metabolic lysosomal storage disorder, meaning they don't produce an enzyme to break down a molecule. So the molecule is called a GAG, and the GAG builds up in their system and attacks their organs and eventually their brain, leading to death. So when Kendi was diagnosed, we were given 3 options. Option number 1 was to do nothing. We were told that her quality of life would decrease significantly and very quickly. She would pass away between the ages of 5 to 10. Number 2, we could do enzyme replacement therapy. Enzyme replacement therapy, which is known as ERT, is an artificial enzyme that goes intravenously every week. It's something that they would have to do for the rest of their life. It is about a 6-hour infusion. They would probably have a port placed and have a port that is a different quality of life living with a port. The enzyme replacement therapy does not pass the blood-brain barrier. So cognitively, they would still decline. And they are, I would say, living into their teens and maybe some into their early 20s that do enzyme replacement therapy alone. So the best treatment option we felt as a family, and the best treatment option if you're diagnosed under the age of 2, is a bone marrow transplant. A bone marrow transplant passes the blood-brain barrier and protects them cognitively. There's a lot of risk with a bone marrow transplant. We had, I think if I remember the percentages correctly, that Kendi had a 30% chance of not surviving the bone marrow transplant. With bone marrow transplant, you are inpatient, really they say 30 to 40 days. For Kendi, we were inpatient 111 days. We had to make a lot of choices that even seemed bigger than buying a house. We had to sign a lot of paperwork. We had to sign saying that we understood that there was a chance she would not survive. We had to sign saying that we understood that the chemo would give her greater risk of having cancer in the future. We had to sign papers saying we would be liable for what insurance did not pay for. We had to sign paperwork saying if we did or didn't want to take out her ovaries, in hopes that when she is at an age to have children, that maybe her ovaries would be frozen and she would be able to have kids of her own, because the chemo damages the ovaries.
We'll talk about a decision that was just eye-opening and really hard to make, was the fact that we just, we'd got married and Kennedy had came along and blessed us in this world, and to have to make a decision on your 9-month-old daughter, who you just had 9 months ago, of whether she can have kids in the future possibility or not. And that was basically they would have removed one of her ovaries, froze it, and then whenever she had ready to have kids later on in life, then they would have placed the ovary back in, and there was no hard evidence that it was good or it wasn't, and that it was another risk, another surgery for her, And so we chose not to do it. There's a ton of ways that you can become a mother, a father in this world. And so we just thought it was the best course of action for Kennedy not to have to do that. So that was just me as the dad, just had a child to even think about my daughter having kids is just mind-boggling. It was hard.
And with her physical deformities, the chances of her being able to carry a child to term is very slim. So other people may choose differently, but we did choose not to put Kennedy through another surgery. So after we signed off, we were given a date for transplant. We got put into, or we didn't get put into, they searched the donor base for a match for Kennedy. Kennedy's was matched 10 out of 10. I think it was, not her match was a 10 out of 10, but the rating could have been up to a 10. I want to think Kennedy's was an 8 out of 10 match. And we chose a cord blood.
They do different ratings. Some of them they grade them on 6, some they grade up to 10, and so I vaguely don't remember. Hers was a 5 out of 6 or 6 out of 6, and like you said, 8 or 9 out of 10. It was.
They chose a cord blood. So I want to take a minute to educate you on that. We have patients in the Hurler community that it was very hard for them to find a match. We see it on social media all the time. Somebody is looking for a match. So we strongly encourage you to sign up for Be the Match. It's as easy as a cheek swab. They really look for people that are fairly healthy between the ages of 18 and 40, and you could save a life. To sign up, all it is a cheek swab. And also, like we said, that Kennedy had cord blood. So if you're pregnant, we ask that you go to, I think you could go to Vicord. I need to
look that up.
I need to look that up because a lot of the hospitals in Tennessee are not set up to take donated cord blood, but you can get the kit yourself and take it with you on delivery day, and you could save a life with your baby's cord blood. Both of our children received cord blood. So a selfless mother donated her cord blood and saved our kids' lives. After we chose the bone marrow transplant, we still had a little ways to go. We started enzyme replacement therapy for her just to give her the artificial enzyme until she could get in for a bone marrow transplant. So we drove to Cincinnati every week. Kennedy was diagnosed at the end of March, and so we drove to Cincinnati every week until we went inpatient in May. We drove up the night after our golf tournament in May.
So I want to touch on Kennedy's diagnosis for just a second. That was absolutely the hardest thing that I've ever had to go through, other than the passing of my aunt that was real close to us a few years back. That was absolutely the hardest thing that I've been through, and I can remember being at work on a long shift. I'm a firefighter full time, and I'm a captain, so got firefighters that are around all the time, and I can just remember going into my office, and I think that was one of the first times that I ever Googled Hurler Syndrome, and I can remember just looking at the images and seeing kids and reading the diagnosis, and just all the information that was out there. A, it was overwhelming, but B, it was very, very hard to see, and I was overcome with emotion, just absolutely bawling my eyes out. And as firemen, we're supposed to be tough. We're supposed to take care of you whenever you're in trouble and be strong, and I just couldn't be that way. I was absolutely overcome with emotion. I can just remember sitting in my office at my computer reading it, and I couldn't talk, couldn't speak, couldn't think, couldn't anything. And so the only thing I knew to do was just throw my hands up and just say, God, take this off of me. It's off my shoulders. It's only you can help me carry this. And that's just what I was thinking in my head, and I was immediately just literally like God just reached down and and pick that weight off of me. And I think Allie was at work. I can remember this happened one or two other times that I was just here with Kennedy, and just can just remember looking at her and then just being overcome with emotion. And I remember one of the guys I work with, he's on the maintenance side, but his name is Brandon Peters, and he was definitely a godsend, and very, very good Christian guy. Just pulled me close, and he said one day, he said, Ryan, you're not going to be able to speak, you're not going to be able to think, but God's going to understand your tears. There's going to come a day when that happens. And I was thinking, man, come on, I can. No matter how hard I'm crying, no matter how hard what it is I'm going through, I can always say a prayer in the back of my head. And I can honestly say that God knew those were the words that I needed to hear, because during those times I couldn't think, I couldn't speak, I couldn't do anything. Might as well just be sitting there lifeless. But the only thing that I could do was, once again, just throw my hands up and just say, take it off of me. I can't deal with it. And he did. He took it off of me. And just, I could get up, I could play with Kennedy, I could look at her, I could, walk. And it was just very overwhelming. And I want to put that in there, because if there's something you're dealing with and you can't do it on yourself, and there's no way that you can do everything by yourself, just throw your hands up to God. He'll pull it off of you just like he did us. There's nothing that too big that God can't handle. And I know I went way off track and got a little bit sidetracked there, but that's just something God put on my heart that I wanted to let you know, that that is what I went through with Kennedy's diagnosis, and I'm fairly certain that it can help you too. So it seemed like at every appointment for the enzyme replacement therapy, it seemed like our geneticist would come and check on us, see if there's anything we needed, if there's any questions we had. And it seemed like no matter what we talked about, where we started off, our question always got back to that one point, was we was looking. Allie and I both were searching, and we were hurt, we were destroyed, that we knew what Kennedy was about to have to go through. And we were searching for that phrase, your baby girl's going to be okay, your Kennedy's going to be fine, she's going to go through this. And nobody could give us that answer. And I can remember our geneticist finally saying at one point, I don't know if she was just tired of us asking or what, but I can remember her saying that I can't give you the answer that you're looking for. I know what you're trying to get to, and I know what you're trying to ask in roundabout ways, and I can't give you that answer.
Even with a bone marrow transplant, a child diagnosed with Hurler is still diagnosed as terminal. It's a rare disease. It's an orphan disease. It's hard to get funding. It's hard to get awareness. It's hard to get people to listen. There's not many. So to be born with Hurler is 1 in 100,000. We live in Tennessee. I can think of, 5 or 6 people that I know of that live in Tennessee that have Hurler Syndrome. So it was scary. We'd never heard of it. Never heard the word. Nothing. It was all new. And
for us to be somewhat normal.
Yeah, and like Ryan said, when you Google, it's very scary. It's very scary.
So for 2 somewhat normal, you think we're normal, don't you? I think kind of, anyways, at least. We're a little bit, but, to not have any disabilities, to not, nothing medically wrong with either Allie and I, for us to be bombarded with the diagnosis of Hurler's was just... And
I'm with Ryan. I'd never really lost anybody close to me at this point. I think I did. I had just lost my papa. My papa had died of a stroke while I was pregnant with Kennedy. But up to that, until I was over 30, but into my late 20s, I had all of my grandparents. I had met my great-grandparents. I've just lived a really blessed life. My parents were married for 26 years and just well spoiled and loved on. And Ryan knew we lived across the street from his grandparents, and so we just had a lot of family around us. So it was really hard to didn't really know how to handle such a devastation.
I can remember bringing Kennedy home from the hospital, and my grandmother had said, "Well, does she have all 10 fingers? Does she have all 10 toes?" And saying, "Yeah, she's normal." I call her Granny. She's normal, Granny. And then 9-10 months later, we get the diagnosis of Hurler Syndrome. So our next step after the enzyme infusions was to find a donor, get a match, and then we would get our transplant date 2 weeks prior to our transplant date. Correct? Am I saying that right? That we would start chemotherapy. And basically what that is to do is to kill all of Kennedy's immune system and her white blood counts for her body to receive the donor cells, the transplant, the cord blood, so that she would, her body wouldn't reject it. And so she was going to have 2 weeks of chemo, which started at D-14, which is that right?
I don't know if exact. I feel like it's 7 days of chemo, 3 days off. So I feel like it's 10 days total. But we got a calendar prior with exactly what was going to happen, what she was about to face.
Yeah. So
we had no clue what to pack. I can remember one of our enzyme appointments. I guess I asked if we could get a tour what we were going to be living in, and I can remember going up, and it was a tiny room. What do you think? 20 by 20?
I don't know. It wasn't that big. No, mine and your sleeping quarters was about the size of this love seat. That's about it.
So it was tiny. It was cold, and there was a wooden rocker in there, and all I could think was, how am I going to do this? I was sort of a germaphobe already, and like I said before, very spoiled, and I'm a homebody, so I love to be home. I love to be in my bed, and that made it even more daunting. And how do you pack for? We knew we would be living in Cincinnati until day plus 100, and you're supposed to be in the hospital approximately 30 to 40 days. So how are you supposed to pack your whole life in a suitcase?
And if you know Allie, she packs a whole lot.
So I didn't know where to start. So the whole thing, like we've said, it was just very daunting, very overwhelming. All the doctor's appointments. It is why my brain is so fried, because you just can't process it all. You just go through the motions, and that's exactly what we did.
So we're going to pick up on episode 3 at Kennedy starting to receive her donor cells. And like I said, if you haven't seen episode number 1, you can click right here and it'll take you straight to it. So once again, we want to say God bless every one of you. We want to thank you for tuning in to episode number 2. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe and hit the bell down below to get notifications whenever we do upload another video, whenever that is. We're going to try to on every Wednesday, but with our crazy lives, crazy kids, and Allie just being crazy altogether, I don't know that that's going to happen every Wednesday, but we will try. We'll try our hardest. So if you like...
And I want to say, we welcome comments, critiques, questions below. I think that'll help us tell our story, because we don't really know exactly what people want to hear, or if we're rambling, or if it's too long, or maybe something we can help educate you about or answer questions. So I feel like we want positive criticism or constructive criticism, comments, and questions.
Yeah, positive or negative. We're not gonna. We might be hurt for a minute or two, but we'll pick back up and.
No,
and
I
go
take
again.
things to heart. So, constructive criticism, I mean, it could be negative, but not like telling me that I have a zit on my face. Constructive criticism.
You got one right there, by the way.
Stop.
No, really. Subscribe button, hit the little bell, hit the like button if you like it, hit the dislike if you don't, and comment below. And like Ali said, give us constructive criticism or just comment and tell us you love the way we look. I mean, we can't help it. I'm just kidding.
Stop.
God bless you all. Y'all have a good day. Thank you so much.